Hey guys, thanks for joining us on We'll Play Games. My name is Lance, and today I'm looking at a brand new game coming to Kickstarter called The Chronicles of Drunagor. This is a new game by Creative Game Studio. It is a 1 to 4 player game that takes roughly 1 to 2 hours to play and is a fully cooperative game, so all the players are working together to defeat the scenario they've chosen to go on. So in this video, I'm going to take you through the first, middle, and end couple turns to show you how the game plays and progresses to help you decide whether or not you want to back this one on Kickstarter. If you find these videos helpful, if you like what I do, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel, as it really does make a big difference, helps me to continue to grow and produce these videos. And if you want to stay updated on all my videos, also consider ringing the bell so you get notifications anytime I release new content. So let's head to the table and I'll show you what this one's all about. Before moving into the game, there's a couple other things I want to mention real quick. So all the materials you see here are prototype materials that are subject to change, and a lot of them have changed already. For example, with the trays here that you see, these are just stand-in trays. They're very flimsy, but the ones that you'll get in the game are made specifically for the game by Game Trays, and they're going to hold it very well. Everything is going to line up perfectly the way that it is supposed to in the game. So you'll see a couple things, and I'll point that out as we play. But just keep that in mind that all of these things are subject to change. Some of them have already changed and are going to look a lot better in the production copy. So from there, let's go ahead and move on in. So there's a couple things I want to cover real quick. There's a lot on the table, as you guys can see, but each one of these characters is going to be played by a different player. You could play multiple characters if you wanted to, so you could play this as just a solo game if you want to. Everything is going to be controlled by the initiative track and is going to determine when the players and enemies are going to activate throughout the turn. And I'll break down each one of these things as we get into it. So first off, to start the game, each one of our players are going to choose a starting location, which they're going to start in one of these 6 starred places. So let's go ahead and have our guys line up. And then the other thing is, as we move in, each one of the scenarios is going to have a number of doors, and these are going to be unique. As you guys can see, these will be standing up, and they'll connect to the tray in the final production copy as well. So with these are not just doors, but as you open them up, they're going to give you story elements and setup instructions for the different parts of the scenario as you move through it. So that way then you can keep everything hidden and everything's a surprise as you discover it. They're also going to give you a little bit of a little story along with it. So this first one here says that you arrive at Black River Village. Following the Archmage Norris, people are disappearing without a trace, he said. Weird activities have been spotted at the ancient ruins of the Beaver Creek Fortress. You decide to investigate immediately. When you arrive at the fortress, the entrance is blocked with fallen stones. As you circle around the ruins, you find a crack in the wall, big enough to fit a strong man. Cautiously, you go inside. You enter into a small room with a stone gargoyle statue on a pedestal. It looks creepy and amazing at the same time. So again, then, like I said, this will give you all the different instructions. As you can see here, it outlines where the players are going to start, where the different magnifying glasses are going to go. And as you can see, there's actually a little gargoyle statue on this. And then from there, we're ready to move into the round. So first off, we'll move the initiative track. And the first player to go is going to be our cleric here. So he will get to go, and during his turn, he can move up to 3 spaces, and he gets to spend 2 of his action cubes to perform different actions that are around his board, on the bottom of his board, on the side on his control panel, and any equipment and items that he has, he can use those in. So let's go ahead and start off. We're going to go ahead and have him move forward 1 space, and then we're going to pop this door so that we can see what's going on in there. This is a free action to open doors, so let's go ahead and start off by doing that. So then again, as you guys can see here, we have found a weapons deposit. You enter what appears to be an old weapons deposit lit by candlelight, with a lot of shadows in the room. There are old rusty weapons on top of the wooden table and across the room. You can find scrolls on the table and the floor, and you feel a cold breeze blow in from a window that extinguishes some of the candles. Suddenly coming out of the shadows, you see monsters coming your way. And again, this is going to show us the setup instructions. So with that, let's go ahead and grab the other parts. So we're going to have a spike pit that's going to line up across here. And then we'll also have the weapons room. And then there's going to be a bridge. And as you guys can see in the diagram, the bridge is actually going to go across these spaces here. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to kind of condense this just a tad bit. And then we'll pretend that it kind of goes across there, as it'll be important, the different areas as we move through them. So like I said, in the game that you get the production copy, this is going to line up perfectly. You won't have to have it like this. And then we can go ahead and continue on with our cleric's turn. Oh, we forgot the enemies. Well, it helps if we have enemies out there. So we're going to have 2 skeleton archers. So we'll take the top 2 archers here and place them out. So we'll have 1 here and 1 here. We also need door number 2 to go here. And we have a rotten flesh as well. So we'll go ahead and use this one here. And he's going to come on down here. Then we're going to go ahead and set the health for these guys. And so each one of them on their card is going to outline their health. So the rotten flesh is 3 times the number of heroes. So he will have 9 health. And these skeletons are 2 times the number of heroes. So each of the skeletons is going to have 6 health. So then it's back to our cleric to continue on his turn. He still has 2 movement points that he can spend. And then he can perform a number of different actions as well. So let's see what we have here. So let's go ahead and start off by doing an action. Let's go ahead and do Holy Strike. So this is going to require a blue cube, and we're going to place it in his spot there. With this one, it says it's going to do 2 damage to 1 target, and it also is going to give us a shield. So we'll go ahead and drop a shield down here. And with the magic, it can target any enemy in the dungeon. So let's go ahead and do it on this first skeleton here and do 2 damage to him. And then for his second action, let's go ahead and use the yellow cube on Battle Focus to get him 1 focus. Focus is going to be a very important part of this game, as it's going to allow you to activate your abilities, which are very powerful. And each one of the abilities is going to list the number of focus points that you need for it. So that is it for his turn. He has done his 2 actions, and he's not going to move anymore. So then we're going to go ahead and move on to the next thing. So it's going to be our archers. So with the archers, they have a movement of 4 spaces and a range of 2. So this first skeleton is going to go ahead and move in here for 1, and then he can shoot diagonally, and he'll end up being able, he has a range of 2, so that is 1 and 2, as the range is determined by the large blue squares, not the individual little squares. So he has range now to target our cleric, so he's going to go ahead and do that. And he is going to hit him for 3 damage twice. So our cleric is first going to spend that shield to block 1 point of damage, and then he'll take the 2 remaining. And then for his second amount of damage, he's going to go ahead and spend one of the cubes. Let's go ahead and do the green one onto his Robe of Light, and this is going to prevent 1 damage to self, and it'll cause 1 damage to the attacker. So our archer will take another damage, and then he will take the 2 remaining damage from that. Then it is up to our second archer to go. So with that one, he's going to move 1, 2, 3 there, and then he's also going to target our cleric. So with that, the cleric is going to go ahead and spend the blue here. This is a light defense. It's going to prevent 1 damage, so he'll take 2. And it's going to retaliate 2, so he'll do 2 damage to our yellow archer. And then the archer is going to go again. Our poor cleric here is getting absolutely hammered. So he's going to go ahead and spend the red cube up here for a power defense. And that's going to prevent 3 points of damage, so he won't take any damage from that second set. Next, we have our rotten flesh. So with rotten flesh, he can move up to 3 spaces. So he's going to move there. And then he is out of range, as he needs to be adjacent to a hero in order to hit them. So then we'll go ahead and move on. Right now we don't have any Shadow Knights, so we'll go ahead and continue on, following down to the bottom row now. So we have the archer, or the mage, to go next. So she's going to go ahead and move up 1 space, and then she's going to go ahead and interact with the magnifying glass to interact with the gargoyle. So then, as you guys can see, there are going to be these different interaction pictures that are in there. And with this is a prototype adventure, so there's only a number of options that are available to us, but as you can see, all these different points on there in the base game, there's going to be a lot of different options for the players to make, and some of these will be good and some of them will be bad. For example, let's go ahead and take a look at a couple options here. So if we chose to, for example, pull the handle on the gargoyle's statue, we would take a look at number 44. And so with this one, it says pull the handle. You pull the cold iron handle from the pedestal and you hear a moving stone sound in the distance, like if you had opened or closed a door or something. When assembling the room from the dungeon door, a Strange Knight 1, skip step 3, placing the bridge. So the bridge actually wouldn't have been placed if we would have pulled that lever. That could be really nasty, or with this now, the bridge would go away, dropping that rotten flesh into the spikes. But we're going to go ahead and try to, our mage wants those rubies for a spell component that she's working on, so she's going to go ahead and pull the red stones from the eyes. You successfully take one eye out without breaking it. It looks like a sapphire stone, so you're going to gain the adventure card 4, or sapphires, I was saying rubies. So with this one, it is going to give us the Sphere Sapphire Stone, and we'll just go ahead and place that next to our character. Now, some of these will have different effects later in scenarios, and some of them you'll be able to use in campaigns and different things, so there's going to be a lot of different options as your characters go on. So then that is just her first part of her turn, so she's going to go ahead and move one more, and then she's going to go ahead and activate one of her spells to do telekinesis. That way we can move that rotten flesh into the spikes. She is going to have to roll for this, and she needs to roll an 11 or higher. So let's see if she gets lucky enough to do that. And she got a 14, so she pulled it off. This is going to allow her to do a movement of 4. So 1, 2, 3 into the spikes. So when a enemy or hero falls into spikes, they're going to take 1 damage, so that'll move him down 1, and then he also is going to take 2 bleed tokens, and these are going to do damage to him in his following turns. Alright, so next then she's going to go ahead and use a blue cube to do the flame sphere. This is going to do 2 damage on a target and all adjacent targets. So she's going to go ahead and target our blue archer over there to do 2 damage to him, so he's down to 1 point of damage. Then it's also going to hit the yellow guy for 2, so he's down to 2, and the rotten flesh, as he's adjacent as well, for 2 points. That is her 2 actions, but she is going to go ahead and move her last space, and then her turn is over. So then we'll go ahead and move on. So at this point, now we have a command card that's going to activate the archers again. So now she is actually the closest, so they're going to target her. So with our first one, we have our blue archer, and so she is going to go ahead and spend one of her cubes on her robe, and this one is going to allow her to prevent 2 damage to self, so she'll only take 1 damage from that first shot, and she can use this any number of times. So then she's going to do the same thing for the second one, as she can't take a lot of damage from these guys, otherwise they're going to finish her off here. And then the yellow guy is going to go and he'll do the same thing, so he's going to shoot her again. So she'll have to use that again. And then the last time she doesn't have any, so that'll bring her all the way down to 1. So she is not doing too well there. That was a lot of punishment from her. And then finally we're on to the dwarf to finish the round off. So with our dwarf, he is going to go ahead and move. 1, 2, 3. And he's going to go ahead and spend another cube so that he can move again. So let's go ahead and spend the red one, and that'll be, he can discard that into this box, and this is going to let him either re-roll a die that he used in combat, or he can move 3 spaces. So he's going to go ahead and move again. So 1, 2, and he'll go ahead and stop there. And then he's going to go ahead and spend his second cube on the Battle Master. So this one is going to let him do 2 damage to all adjacent enemies. So that'll finish off the blue archer, as he only had 1 hit point left. That's also going to finish off the yellow archer, as he had 2 hit points left, and it's going to bring the rotten flesh down 2 more, down to 4 hit points. Now, we also did finish off 2 enemies, so that each time we finish off an enemy, we get to move the token higher on the level up track. So this first one is going to allow us to remove one of the white cubes on our player boards or our control area. So let's go ahead and start off with our dwarf here. He's going to go ahead and take the Whirlwind Strike, so he'll remove the white cube, and he also gains a colored cube of that color, so he'll gain a red cube. Moving over to our cleric to choose one of his abilities to gain, he's going to go ahead and take Power World Shield, which each shield is going to allow him to prevent 2 points of damage. Now, when a player chooses a passive ability, then they will not gain a new cube of any color. And then finally, our mage will go ahead and take the Ice Storm, and that's going to give her a blue cube as well. Then we also did kill the yellow archer, so then we'll move it up again. And now we get a level on our hero class. So each one of our heroes will gain a token for that. We'll go ahead and start with our dwarf again. And so he is going to take Precision Passive. It's a +2 hit, so that'll give him +2 to any of his attacks. With our cleric, he's also going to take Precision, and that is going to give him +1 hit and +1 damage to his attacks. And then with our mage, we're going to go ahead and take Constitution. That's going to give her +2 hit points. So now she'll have a maximum hit point value of 9, which will help keep her alive a little longer. At this point, all of our players have gone, so then we'll continue moving it on. And this is the last step in the round. So each scenario is going to have a card for the ruins. And so it's going to tell us what to do. We're going to draw 1 ruin from the bag, so we'll go ahead and do that. And this is when the darkness is going to come out. All right, so we got a green ruin, and it is going to be a straight line. So we'll go ahead and place that up there, and then we'll go ahead and grab that. So from there, then it is going to actually start on this space here. These are the darkness spawnings. We can do it in any direction as it's moving its way towards the heroes. So as our mage has already taken a lot of damage, we're going to go ahead and go straight instead. And this way it's going to hit our cleric. And so he is going to take 2 damage from that. Any character that is on that will take damage, so he'll take 2. And then we'll go ahead and flip this card over to the other side. So now the next time this comes up, we'll have to draw 2 ruins from the bag. So our characters are definitely going to want to move. As you can see, the darkness is going to continue to chase us as the game goes on. So at this point, then the token is going to go back up to the top, and our characters are ready to start a new round. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and take a round off camera, and we'll come back in round 3 to see how our heroes are doing. Moving back into round 3, we saw some action last round. We finished off that rotten flesh. We had a couple of new ruins come out. The darkness crept up from the ruins, and we have a new room here. So we have a priest or something, some sort of a clergyman that went down, and so we need to investigate that. And there's a rotten flesh in there as well. And then we have our door number 3 with some water in our way. So we're going to go ahead and move into the round with our cleric starting off his turn. The one other thing I want to point out that you didn't see in the first round is as our players use their cubes, they have to be careful how many they use. As each time they are completely out of cubes, then they're going to have to recall their cubes, but then they're also going to have to place 2 of the cursed cubes in there, blocking off some of their abilities until they cleanse them. And if a player ever has 6 of them, then they have been corrupted by the darkness and the players lose the game. So let's go ahead and move in. We have the cleric's turn to go. So he's going to go ahead and start off by moving 1, 2, 3. And then he's going to go ahead and do the Holy Strike again. So this one, again, is going to do 2 damage to our rotten flesh, and it's going to give him 1 shield. So he'll gain that, and we do 2 damage. That'll bring him down to 7. And then he has 1 more action if he wants to do something. So he's going to go ahead and spend his yellow cube down here to remove a curse. This will let him remove one of the black tokens, and he gets to heal him 2 spaces. And he does have a passive ability that gives him +3 hit points. That's why he is going beyond his starting value. So that is it for our cleric's turn. So then we'll move on. We have no archers right now. We do have a rotten flesh. So he is going to move 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. And he is going to move towards the character that has the fewest number of action cubes available. So that's why he's moving towards the cleric versus the dwarf. So then we'll move on. We don't have any Shadow Knights yet. So then we're over to the mage to go next. She is in the darkness right now, so she took 2 damage from that. So she's going to go ahead and move. 1, 2, 3. And then she'll go ahead and start her turn. And she's going to go ahead and spend the green cube to do astral movement. This is going to let her teleport 3 and focus 1. So she'll gain that focus token. And then she gets to move 3 more spaces again. So she'll go 1, 2, and 3 over there. And then for her final action, she's going to go ahead and spend her yellow cube. Well, let's spend a blue cube on the stun enemy. This is going to do 1 damage to our target, and it's going to stun them. So we'll place a stun token next to our enemy there. And that will finish off her turn, so then we'll move on. We have commands, but we don't have any archers right now, so then we're over to our dwarf to finish it off. So he's going to go ahead and move, so that he's adjacent to our rotten flesh, and then he's going to go ahead and do a command order. This is going to let him hit twice, and it'll do +1 damage to it. So then he's going to have to roll. Now he does have some bonuses. He does have that +2 bonus from his stuff there, so normally he needs a 10, but that's going to drop him down to an 8. Well, it's actually going to add +2 to the die. So let's go ahead and start off and see if he can hit that first roll. So we got an 11 plus the 2 for 13, so that was a success. So it's going to do 3 damage. So he's down, that enemy's down to 3. And then we have 1 more. Let's see if we can finish him off here. And a 15, so that'll bring it up to 17. So that will finish off that enemy. So again, we get to move our track. So again, we'll move it up here. So we gain a skill ability. So again, we get to remove one of our cubes and gain a new one potentially. So for our dwarf, he's going to go ahead and take the passive ability Relentless, which is his passive, and it's going to give him +3 against all enemies that have a higher initiative, which all of the enemies are higher initiative. So he's going to get a +3 against all of them. So that'll help him connect and do damage. For our cleric, he'll go ahead and take move and protect, and this is going to give him +2, let him move 3 spaces and get 2 shields. And then finally with our mage, she's going to go ahead and take area control, and this is going to let her, it's a +0 to hit, and it's a telekinesis 6, so she'll really be able to move our enemies around. And then she's going to go ahead and take a blue cube for that. And that is it for our dwarf. So we're going to go ahead and move the token over. And so again, we'll draw 1 rune from the bag. And we have another red. This is another straight line. Oof, those are some big ones. All right, so then we'll go ahead and place that out. The darkness is coming. And then this gets flipped over. And then this will move back up to the top. So our cleric will be the next one to go. And so now that our characters are in the water, they're at -1 movement. So he'll only be able to move 2 spaces each of his movements. So he'll go ahead and start off. He's going to move 2. And then he'll go ahead and spend his green cube to do another movement and a protect. So that's going to get him 2 shields. So that'll help him be more defensive. And lets him move 3 more spaces, but he can only move 2. And then he'll go ahead and spend his last cube to move 2 more spaces. So he'll move up 1 and over 1. That way he's adjacent to everything. And then he is out of action cubes, so he will have to resolve that effect as well. So then he'll gain all of those back. And 2 curse cubes of his choice where he wants to place them. So he'll do 1 on battle focus and 1 on we'll take 1 on aura of healing. As he's not adjacent to any characters right now, it's not going to help him that much. Then we would move into the enemies. We don't have any archers, rotten flesh, or shadow knights, so then we're over to our mage to go next. And so she's going to go ahead and move 2 and open that door to see what we got going on in there. So with this one, again, we'll open it up, and as you guys can see, this is the Old Goddess. This is an old room with a statue in the middle. It is a goddess from the Second Age. Gwendolen was her name. A white light comes from the ceiling and shines on something in her hands. The room is well guarded by creatures as if they were guarding something important. On the high floor, you see a light coming from the floor. So from there, then, it's going to have us set up the room, so as you can see here. And I'm going to go ahead and take away some of these other tiles to give some room so that I can place this out. So I'm going to go ahead and rearrange this stuff, and then we'll go ahead and pick it up. All right, so I don't know if that was a good idea. We have a bunch of enemies here and our first Shadow Knight, so we'll see how nasty they are. He can do a ton of damage, as you guys can see. He does 5 damage and a curse, so super nasty, and he's got 12 hit points, so we're going to have to try to take care of him quickly. All right, so let's go ahead and start off with our mage, and we're going to go ahead and do the Senserum. That way that we can try to telekinesis him away and see if we can get him farther away from us. So with this, we're going to have to roll to hit. Now, she needs an 11 normally. The dwarf does give her +2 with his passive ability, Leader Aura. So that'll help her out a little bit there. So let's go ahead and give it a roll and see what we get. We got a 12, and he adds 2 to that. And he adds 2 to that, so we're at 14, so we do it. And we have gotten enough that we needed. So it's going to do 2 damage from her wand, so that'll drop our enemy down to 10. And it lets her move him up to 4 spaces. So she's gonna move him up here. And then for her second action, she's gonna go ahead and do that flame shield, or the flame sphere. This is going to do 2 damage to the target and all adjacent to him. So again, that'll do 2 to him, and it'll do 2 to each of the archers. So they're both down to 4 as they're adjacent to him. And then from there, that'll finish off her turn. So then we're moving on. Again, we have the command order come up, so the archers are going to fire, unfortunately, for our mage. She is going to take some damage here. So first off, our yellow archer is going to fire, and our dwarf will go ahead and step in, and he is going to go ahead and use his red cube. Actually, our dwarf won't be able to do anything with that, unfortunately. So our mage is left almost defenseless here, so she's going to go ahead and do... Now, the one thing I did forget with her, she does have rejuvenation, so anytime an enemy dies, she would heal 1, so she would have gotten a couple health from those enemies that we just defeated. So that'll help a little bit. So then she's going to go ahead and spend the 1 on her armor. That's going to stop or prevent 1, and then she'll go ahead and do it again for that second attack. And then our blue enemy is going to go, and he's going to fire at her twice again. So she'll do it once for that, and then the second one gets through as she does not have any more defense. And then unfortunately, she has used all of her cubes, so again, she'll gain those back, but then she also has to gain 2 more curses. So she is having a rough time there, as she's got 4 curses now on her character. So we'll go ahead and place 1 on the astral movement, and we'll place 1 on the mage armor. So then we're going to go ahead and continue on. It'll be our dwarf to go next, and he's running out of cubes as well. He's going to have to recall here soon, so he's going to go ahead and spend the red cube on the battle focus to gain a focus token. At that point, then his turn is going to end, and he is going to move up here so that he can potentially take some damage here. So let's go, yeah, right there. And then he will have to gain those 2 cubes as well, and he'll clear those off. So he'll go ahead and gain 1 on the battle focus and 1 in to kick to the knee. All right, so then his turn is done, and we're on to the darkness. So again, we'll draw a ruin from the bag. And it's another red one, so we have a 4 points. So we'll do that. And then we flip the card over to its 2 ruin side. So at this point, then this will come back up to the top and we would start a new round. So I'm going to go ahead and take another round off camera. Moving into round 5, our heroes were able to bring down that Shadow Knight. He was really nasty though, and the one thing I forgot to point out is that yes, he does 5 damage, but he actually basically takes that big sword and swings it across the entire blue space that he attacks, hitting all of the heroes. So he can be really nasty, especially if your group's bunched up. So then let's go ahead and start off with a brand new turn with our cleric to start. So unfortunately he ended up in the darkness again. It is just dogging us the whole way in. So he's going to go ahead and move his 3 spaces. So 1, 2, and 3 here. And then he'll go ahead and do an attack. So let's go ahead and do the Holy Light. This is a +0/+0, so it's 2 attacks, and he gets a shield for it. So he's going to need a 11 for a success. So let's see if he can do it. The enemy only has 1 hit point left, so he just needs 1 success on this. He got a 17, so he did destroy that enemy. That'll finish that one off. Our mage will gain that health for her ability, and then we'll also get to level up our ability, so we get to choose another one of our tokens, our white cubes to take off. So our dwarf is going to take Weapon Master. That will give him another melee attack and a yellow die, or a yellow cube. Our cleric is going to take, he's going to take Defensive Stance. And then finally our mage is going to take the Mass Transport. That'll let her move all of the characters 3 spaces. Then we'll continue on with our turn. So the cleric is going to go ahead and do Remove Curse to heal 2, and he'll target the mage. And she'll get to remove 1 of her curses. She'll take it off of this one here. And that'll be it for him, so then we'll move on. We have no enemies out currently, so it'll go over to our mage's turn. So she is going to definitely move off of the darkness. So 1, 2, 3. And then right away, she's going to go ahead and use that mass teleport to move our heroes a little bit farther. So our dwarf will move up here. And then she's going to go ahead and move over here as well. From there, then she's going to go ahead and use an item. This is going to let her discard to cleanse 2, so that'll get her fully cleansed. And we'll just discard that. And that is all she's going to do during her turn. So then we'll move on to the dwarf's turn. So the dwarf is going to go ahead. Actually, let's go ahead and step back for a second. Let's move instead. We're going to move her over here, and the dwarf will move up. Then she's going to go ahead and interact with that as we want to see what's going on here. So she'll go ahead and take that token off, and let's find out. So as you guys can see here, we have that maiden statue. And for the prototype adventure, there was only one option, which is to look at the missing eye socket. Well, gee, we have that sapphire that we could potentially use. So let's see what happens. So it says looking at the eye socket. You examine the eye socket hole and remember the eyes from the gargoyle stone. They seem to be the same shape and form. So if you have the adventure card, Sphere, Sapphire, Stone, discard it and read this. So let's go ahead and discard that. You place the Sapphire Stone in the eye socket and the statue begins to move from its base, revealing a secret passage underneath. There are 3 treasure chests inside. Draw 3 cards from the level 3 treasure deck. So right now all we have is the one treasure deck. So we're just going to draw 3 from that and see what we have. So we have Amulet of Constitution. It's a passive and it gives us +1 HP. So that's nice. So she definitely wants that. And then we have 2 other things. We have the Potion of Gas Form. Discard to move 6 spaces. So we're going to go ahead and transmute that. And then we also have the Ring of Constitution, which is going to give us the path. This is for the Path of Mystic, so that's really good. And it's going to give us an ability to focus too, so that's really powerful. So we're going to equip that instead, and we'll just put this in our bag to potentially pass off to one of the other heroes. All right, so then it's on to our dwarf character, as there are no enemies right now for the commands. So he's going to go, he'll go ahead and move 1, 2, 3 over here. And he's going to go ahead and spend a cube on his ring here. This lets him gain an initiative, and it's going to let him focus 1. So he's actually at his max focus, so that's not going to help him too much. But the ability is going to be definitely beneficial to him. So with that, it lets him move up 1 spot on the initiative track, so that lets him go before the command group goes. So that'll potentially help him as we move along here. At this point, then, our dwarf really doesn't want to do anything else. He is good with what he has, so we're going to go ahead and finish off with a draw ruin step. All right, so we have a blue ruin, and it is a Z shape. And we're going to go ahead and hit our mage there. So she's going to take 2 more. She is just having a heck of a time there. And then we'll flip this card over up to the draw 2 side. And then we're ready to go again. So we get to start our turn with the cleric. So he's going to go ahead and go. And he's going to go ahead and examine this spot here, which on our card, as you can see, the door card, it says that we're going to reference the number 111 in the adventure book. So the glowing light on the floor, as you come closer to light glowing on the floor, you realize it's a portal that will take you somewhere else, and you can't find the strength not to come closer. The energy flowing from there compels you to. A flash of white light suddenly goes into your mind, and after it fades, you find yourself in the Undead King's chamber. Oh man. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop here. I will go ahead and set that up, and we'll be back to see how that works out. All right, so this is it. We have set up for the Undead King at this point, and all of our heroes have regained all their health and their cubes and all that. The Undead King has 48 hit points, so it's going to take us a little while to chew through him. We did get lucky with the spawning in that. There's only 1 enemy currently out, and his cards replace the enemy cards. So as we go through, those will activate. And we were still in our character's turn, so we'll continue on the round from there. Other than that, there is a little passage with this, so it says, "In the depths of the great hall, you hear a grating breath and slowly transforms into an evil and dark laughter. The Undead King rises from his throne, and your hearts freeze at the sight. He looks as if he fills the entire room, as his cape wraiths in the shadows and blends with the dark mist that envelops the room. His laughter trails off and into an unsettling silence that seems like an eternity. He then begins to whisper in an unknown language, which seems to tear at the fabric of your sanity. Suddenly, skeleton minions spring from the mist in the floor, and you hear his last words before he comes for you. Your lives will now increase my power as I consume your mortal souls." All right, so then we're into the last round, and let's see if our heroes can manage this and pull it off. So again, we'll go ahead and start with our cleric to go. So he is going to start with his movement. And let's go here. He'll do a Holy Strike. And this is going to do 2 damage to 1 target and give him a shield. So he'll gain a shield for that. And he's going to target the Undead King, of course. So that's 2 off of him. Our heroes have started the damage. And then for his second action, he's going to go ahead and take a defensive stance. And that's going to give him 2 more shields and a focus to get him ready for when the king comes. So at this point, then his turn is done and we're ready to move on. So then all the minions are going to activate. So our minion here, and they work a little bit differently with this. It's going to be based on the number of green ruins. So with us only having 1, their minion is only going to do 1 damage at range 2. So he does have range to our cleric. So he's going to go ahead and fire for 1 damage. And the cleric will go ahead and use one of his shields to stop that. That is all the minions, so then we'll go ahead and move on. So now we have the Undead King is going to do a Blast of Death. So with this attack, it's going to cause X damage, and it's going to curse 1 to all of the heroes. So it's going to do 3 damage to each hero, and it's going to do 1 curse. So each of our heroes will gain a curse. Then each of our characters is going to take 3 damage. So with our mage, she is going to go ahead and put it on her armor. Then she can prevent 2 of that, so she'll only take 1. Our cleric will use 2 shields to stop his damage, and the dwarf will use a shield to stop his for 1, and then he's also going to use his breastplate to stop the other. Then we're on to the next one. So with this one we have Darkness Push. He's going to fly to the strongest hero and push him towards the closest darkness tile. And then he'll cause X damage to all heroes that are adjacent. So he will fly over here and push him 2 spaces. So he will push him into the darkness. And so we're going to use a shield to stop the damage for that. And then there aren't any other heroes adjacent to him, so he's not going to do any damage there. Then we're moving on to our wizard, our mage. So she'll go ahead and move up. Well, let's go ahead and move her here instead. Give her some bonuses. And then we'll go ahead and do that acid arrow. Well, that's a ranged attack, though, and she's only got a range of 1, so she's going to need to get a little bit closer. Let's move up here. All right, then we'll do acid arrow. So that is a +1 to hit, and the dwarf, again, is the leader, so he's going to give her +2 on top of that. So she'll get +3. She does 2 damage to target and 1 damage to all adjacent. So let's see what she does here. She got an 18, so that'll bump her up to 21, which is a critical hit. And so she's going to do an additional point of damage with that. So that is a total of 5 damage, as her staff is going to give her 2. This adds +2 to that for 4. 1 for the critical. And so she's going to do 5 damage to him. So he's down to 41 hit points. And that was her first action. And then she'll go ahead and do the mage armor to get 2 shields to help her out with the damage. All right, moving on to our dwarf now. So he's going to have to get right up in there. So he's going to go ahead and move 1, 2, 3 to get himself there. And let's do a command order. So we'll go ahead and use, let's go ahead and use one of these. So this one is going to let us hit twice and do +1 damage to it. So currently our dwarf does 2 damage, so that'll be 3 damage to him for each hit. And we also have the bonuses for the hits. So we have +2 here, and we also have the +3, so we're at +5 to our rolls. So let's see what we get here. So a 13, so that's bumps us up to an 18, which gives us, we can use an extra action point then. And that's going to do 3 damage to him. So 1, 2, 3. So he's down to 38. And then we'll go again. At 12. So that's a 17. So that's another hit for another 3 points of damage. So it's 35. And that will finish off that attack. And then we're going to go ahead and use the 3 focus on our dwarf to do a power hammer. So this is a +3 to hit. So we're at +8 for this one. And it does a bonus of 3 damage plus his base damage. So let's see what we get. A 17, so that'll give us a critical because of the bonuses. So then we're going to do 6 points of damage to him for that, which brings him down to 29. And then we still have that bonus because of the martial training. So let's go ahead and do a blade bash or a dash. So this is a +3 to hit and does cleave. So it's a 9 plus all the bonuses, which will be a successful hit. So 2 more damage on that. And that will finish off our dwarf. So then we're back at the top of the round to start a new one. So let's just resolve this real quick. So with this one, it says you're going to draw 1 rune from the bag and summon minions. So we drew a blue one. And then with this, it's going to summon a number of minions, which is the number of players -1. and each one of them is going to have a number of health based on the yellow and the players again. So we'll have 2 more minions come out. And with these guys, they're each going to have 4 health. All right, and then we're going to move on to our cleric. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and take a round off camera, and we'll come back and see how things are going. All right, so moving into the final round here, our heroes have been able to do a lot of damage to the Undead King thanks to their focus and some of their other special abilities, but he has done a lot of punishment to them as well. We have a couple of heroes that are getting down in the health and the darkness cubes, and the curses are going to be a real issue as we move along in this turn. So our heroes are also getting low on their action cubes, so when that happens again, they have to recall, and they're going to add 2 more cubes. So even though they only have 2 now, by the end of the turn, potentially, they could have up to 5, which is really close to finishing them off. So this battle will be over, and our Undead King is probably going to die quickly here. So let's go ahead and move on in here. So first off, we have it up at the top of the track here, and we're going to go ahead and draw a rune from the bag and do a summoning. So another red, so he's going to be able to do even more damage to us. Then we will spawn more minions, so we get 2 more out there. So we'll do the black and blue. We're over to the cleric to go, so he is going to move first, get out of that darkness. Then he'll go ahead and spend his yellow to do battle focus to get 1 focus. And he'll go ahead and spend that right away to do 2 attacks on the Undead King for +1 damage. So he'll do 3 damage per hit. And let's see if he can get the job done. A 13 is a success, so that is 3 damage to him. 1, 2, 3. And his second roll is a 6, so we're going to have to spend a cube to re-roll that. So let's go ahead and do that. An 18, so that will be a success, and that's 3 more damage, so he's down to 1 hit point left. And our priest does not have, or our cleric does not have anything else at the moment to be able to do damage to him, as he has a blue cube, which is going to do a mass heal, which would be good. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and do a mass heal, and everybody gains 3 back, so that'll help our characters stay alive. And that'll be the end of his turn, so at this point then he will get all of his cubes back, but then he's also going to get the 2 curses, so that's going to put him up to 4 curses. So let's do the battle focus and the cure wounds. So we're running out of options of stuff to do as well. All right, so then we're on to the next one. So all the minions are going to activate, and they're going to target the dwarf here. So each one of them will do a point of damage. So the dwarf will use the shield for the first one. And then he'll just take the 3 damage from the others. Then we're going to go ahead and move next to this guy. So again, he's going to curse all of us. And then he's going to do 4 damage to each of our characters as well. So the dwarf is going to go ahead and parry that and prevent 2. So he's still going to take 2 points of damage. Our cleric is going to do a power defense and take 1. And our mage is going to use 1 on her robe to prevent 2, and then she'll take 2 damage. Then we will move over here. And again, this one, he's going to fly to the most powerful character, so our cleric, and he's going to hit him back into the darkness again, so 2 damage from that, and then he's also going to take 2 more damage from the spell itself. Then we're going to move on to the mage. So with her, she's just going to do a quick stun enemy, and this is going to do 1 damage to 1 target, which will be the Undead King, and that will finish him off. So as you saw, this again is really close. Our cleric here had 5 curses on him, so 1 more round potentially could have done it for him and knocked him out. And if any character dies, the mission is over and the players lose. So even though we were able to take care of the Undead King, as you saw, it was a close game. Well, I hope you guys found that video helpful in deciding whether or not you want to back this title. I would recommend it to players that enjoy the dungeon crawlers or fantasy settings, as this one really does fit that need and does it very well. If you have any questions or comments, leave those in the comment section below, or swing by the Kickstarter's main page and drop any questions you have there as well. I'm sure the creators would love to hear from you guys and are more than happy to answer any questions you have. If you found this video helpful, if you like what I do, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel, as it really does make a big difference, helps me to continue to grow and produce these videos. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.